all very welcome to Season 2 of CurioCity, where this season we will be looking at the different technology pillars from Season 1, but incorporating them with different startups who are operating within each of those pillars. For this, Episode 1, we're going to be focusing on data analytics, and more so looking at how we allow people to see data in new ways and make data accessible to all people. Before we do get started, I'm going to welcome Grace Byers, our digital advocate, who's going to give us a bit of an idea of what it all means to the person on the street, Grace.
Yes, so I'm going to be breaking down some kind of common terms that we see a lot on the internet surrounding data analytics. So to begin, I'm going to start off with data analytics. To break it down, data analytics is the study of data to release new information that might not have been seen before. Another term that we see a lot is data visualization. Data visualization is creating an image or a visual to see trends and spikes in different kinds of data, and again, to see data in new ways. We also have big data, another term that is commonly used. Big data is data that is in large volumes and can be hard to analyze, but once analyzed, it can provide a lot of valuable information. And the last term is simply data. What is data? Data is just information that is collected to analyze. So yeah, I'm going to pass you back to Conor.
Thanks, Grace. So my guests for today's podcast are Ashik Wani, who is founder and CEO of DocAcquire. And we're also joined by Sawko, who is commercial and communication lead at Taina Technologies. Ashik, I'm going to start with you first. If you want to give me an understanding of your business, DocAcquire, and what we've really learned from Grace's introduction is this concept of analytics. It's more of an umbrella as opposed to a flat term. And where do you and your business sit within that umbrella?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, giving me the opportunity. So my name is Ashik, as you said. I am the CEO and founder of DocAcquire. So if you look at the business, we started, the idea, it started, around 4 or 5 years ago. So my background is mostly technical. So I'm a developer, I'm an architect, and I have been into some senior management positions as well. So 5 years ago, I was working with one of the companies. I just want to tell you that story, where it actually started from. So I started with this company. So it's a fintech company. And if you see this insurance businesses, they are mainly driven by the paper. So they carry huge amounts of paper. So we took this project of going paperless at that time. And what we ended up doing is we built this platform, which was basically building this process, end-to-end process of ingesting the paper documents and converting them into digital, and then kickstarting a process. And what I found was, there is a big thing which is missing in this whole process. So it's not just you go and you digitize the document and you store it in a document management system. It's basically the data, the value which is trapped inside the documents. Okay, and what happened? I started looking into the market, what's out there. And I found, there are some, tools out there. There are some big players out there, but it's not. They lack a lot of, offerings. So the main issue I found was they were not cloud ready and they were not cloud-based solution because majority of the businesses, they were migrating to cloud. And one of the other issues I found was these platforms, they don't give you, an easy way to integrate with other applications as well. And they were very difficult to configure, right? So I started playing around and I came up with this MVP, a minimum viable product. And I started getting feedback from my peers, from my community, from my, the people I know in the industry. And then a year ago, and I went full time, and I started the company, got serious about it, and now in July this year we went live as a SaaS service. Now, if you look at the whole thing, so what we do is we help businesses to take these documents, which are very unstructured in nature, and take these and take the key data out from these documents, extract them using different techniques, whether it's machine learning or rule-based. So we take that data and give it a structure. And when this data is ready, then it can be consumed by third-party applications directly, or you can, because there are so many different use cases, you can build around it. So that's where we started. And looking into the data analytics, when we convert this data from unstructured nature to structured, so there's a lot of possibility, there's a lot of possibility in this data. Now, converting it from unstructured nature to structured, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't give, it just basically set of data sets in front of you. So in order to unlock that potential, unlock that value out of it, you got to have good, analytics layer on the top of it. So what we have seen is we got some customers. So what they do is they do this conversion using our platform. Then they look into, the methods, the ways, the tools, how they can, take the value, get the insight out of this data. And what we have done from the last few months, we have started looking into these platforms, what platforms are out there which can basically help our customers to get the insight from these, from that data.
Okay, very good. You mentioned a lot about the value, and although that these may be physical documents that we're trying to get to cloud, and the value of all of that, and we often hear how data is the new oil. Your business is in operation, I know now, for almost 5 years, but if we look from an analytics perspective, how fast has the landscape changed in terms of where we are today? And what areas are businesses not leveraging where they could be getting a lot more value from the data from an analytics perspective?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So, as you said, businesses, they know they can transform the data from unstructured, which is which you can't manage easily, to in a manageable way, which is structured format. Now, what we help our customers to help them, to guide them, to give them the tools so that they can go in there and they can they can reuse that data so they can take better business decisions. Now, what we have seen is what we are looking for. We're looking for a technology which is cloud native technology, because all of our data sits in the cloud. Right, and most of our customer, their line of business applications, they live in cloud as well. So what we're looking for, a technology, an analytics technology which is cloud native, so that this analytics technology can tap into these different sources of data which are coming from these different business systems, and and it will be easier for these businesses, to give a shape to this data. Prepare that data, and then at the end put some, visual insights on the top of it. So that's what we are looking into at the moment.
Very, very good. So I know that from when Grace started, or I started off the podcast in the beginning for us, we know that when we talk analytics and data visualization, or data visuals is another piece within that umbrella of where, I suppose, is the value differentiator for data visualization. And it's, as if I'm a person on the street who's not very familiar with it, how can I really reap value from data visualization itself?
So I think that goes back to, if you look at the trends of data analytics, I'll talk about future as well. This is what I have been doing my research. There has been some Gartner reports, based on, how the future is going to be. I think it's to do with how a process, basically where you have set of tools available, which you can, which will help you to prepare and try, help you to get the insight from the data, right, and shape that data. And once you have that ready, you put some, visualization on the top of it. and have the right set of visualization, on the top, so that, it will help you to, take the correct decisions, data-driven decisions.
Fantastic. So Daniel, if I can jump to you for a moment, it's a very different company, Taina Technologies, but it's just testament to what I would have said at the start, that analytics, if we look at it, is an umbrella as opposed to anything else. Do you want to give us some insight into terms? You're also an analytics company, but doing something similar but still different at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us back. What Taina Technology does is essentially we make tax forms easy. So we make them easy both for customers and then for financial institutions that have to process those tax forms. Now, I mean, everyone thinks, tax really, really boring, but I bet you have struggled with submitting a tax return before or a question on a tax form.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's why I don't submit them.
Yeah. Well, but exactly. There are millions of people around the world who really, really struggle with this. So what we do is we essentially we have a business rules engine that validates the information that banks or other financial institutions' customers are putting into tax forms, and we give them instantaneous feedback, so we make that process really easy for customers. And then we also enable that process to become far simpler for operations departments. Now, where the analytics piece comes in, and this is what we find really interesting, because to date, operations departments in financial institutions are often seen as essentially a cost center. But by utilizing the information that's part of a tax form, part of onboarding, we can actually generate the analytics that helps those operations departments become value generators, value creators, by identifying areas in that tax form or within the onboarding process that customers today are struggling with. So we can help financial institutions reduce the time to the creation of value and the delivery of value to their end customers.
Okay, so very, very interesting. So you're taking something which is extremely complex. I think everybody has said in the past at some stage, tax, and particularly tax returns, etc., is something that maybe should have been taught at school and wasn't, to make people's lives a lot easier. So your company is in, how old at this stage? How long are you in business?
Yeah, so I suppose a little bit of background about the company. So our CEO and founder, Maria Scott, so she was working as a corporate tax lawyer for a very large financial institution. She was working in a department where she saw, essentially the pain and anguish that was caused both for customers and for the operations teams. So she saw that, she had an idea. She then went to do an MBA at Chicago Booth. She launched Taina in late 2016. We had an MVP in 2017. We're then iterating and iterating. We landed our first customer that year, and we've been growing ever since then. So we got a fair number more customers today. We're raising now for sort of Series A. So it's quite an exciting time.
Fantastic. So what I would really love to get an understanding of, two very different companies, but all really truly on the same path, as in from an analytics perspective. We have seen where your company has come from, but I suppose being thought leaders or visionaries, but particularly within the industry, where are we going? As I had mentioned, we know that they're all saying data is the new oil, but where are we really going to arrive with from a point of analytics and capture that true value for an end user?
So if you look at the the big picture, there is so much of data which gets generated day in, day out, whether it's a social media platforms, whether it's any business platform, especially in big corporates. There is this challenge. I mean, there has been this traditionally, there has been these teams, analytics teams, in-house data scientists. They're still there, trying to get the value out of this data, but it's extremely hard. First of all, they have to really understand what actually the business wants. How we can basically go and get the value from this data, right? So that's the first challenge, getting everybody on the same page. I'll just give you an example, like if there are two different departments, in a business, like a sales and marketing. If you ask them the question what's the customer experience, you'll probably get two different answers, right? I think the challenge is, to have that, common understanding of how you can basically improve the business. What are those key drivers, which will help you to scale your business, or your customer experience. So for these analytics, platforms, that's something, it's a big thing to solve. So there is this thing called, relationship analytics. So what it means is, so as I said, so far these analytics teams, whether it's a data scientist or any other role within the analytics, teams. So what they do is they create a separate data analytics, solution for marketing and a separate for sales. So I think the future is going to be, in terms of, if you look at the future, it should be a platform which will basically help you to connect the dots between these different silos, of an organization, right? And that's what we are also looking into. We're looking into integrating with a platform which is driven by, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and where this artificial intelligence, basically that solution can help a business to understand the data in the first place and help to build the insights out of it, and then take it to the next level of connecting these dots between different, corners or areas within a business, so that you get a very high level, good, holistic view of what's happening with the business.
Would you agree, Daniel?
Yeah, I think some really good points there, and actually I think we see a lot of that in our world. But granted, we're slightly more narrowly focused in terms of our at the moment the sort of organisations and departments that we're touching. But if I could sort of summarise the way that sort of analytics is evolving at the moment for us, so every single one of our clients is going through a journey of sort of the digitisation aspect. So converting, as was identified, converting from paper to a format that is readily digestible for systems. We then obviously can then automate. So off the back of the digitization of either process or paper into a system, we can then create obviously a golden source of data that can then be used. And obviously, if you can get to that stage, if you can start driving customers away from paper and onto a sort of a more digital journey, you then have far more traceability and ability to analyze that journey for optimization. Once we've created that golden source, sort of data lake, as it were, we can then assist our end customers in terms of the optimization and the next best ROI that they then need to make in terms of the likely changes that are going to have the biggest impact, either for them as an operations department or indeed for the end customer. So it's a journey. We are seeing obviously different levels of maturity. Most clients are starting off from essentially a paper-based base, and they are going on that journey. So we're able to take lessons from other industries that we can apply to our customers that are going through that journey. So mentioned sort of machine learning. So we use OCR for digitizing documents. We concentrate on, funnily enough, tax forms. But if you concentrate on certain types of documents, you get very, very good at reading them and being able to utilize sort of large data sets for that purpose, and evolving our own analysis capabilities has really delivered tremendous value to end clients.
I can't help but think, as a consumer, to me, I've been fortunate enough where I've been exposed to the world of technology. I've worked in it for a number of years. But I know when we think analytics, a lot of people will think data, and the minute they think of data, think of GDPR, for example, okay? How, as a consumer, would I see analytics in my life on a day-to-day basis? I know you had mentioned from the streamlining of taxation, and it's when we're looking at documentation and getting it into the cloud from, I suppose, a hard copy and stuff like that. But if I'm a day-to-day consumer on the street, how is analytics impacting me that I may not be aware of?
I think the best example that I could give is if you think back maybe 15 years before most people had Google Maps on their phones, a journey from point A to point B might have taken you 20 minutes. Today, utilizing analytics, Google Maps can automatically tell you the quickest journey. You've not even had to think about actually, should I be taking a different route? Something else has identified the quickest route and has basically made that decision for you. So analytics means that we can take the grand sum of knowledge and apply the best route that we have yet found to every journey. And that's what we're trying to do. I know that it's almost certainly the case for your organization too.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it correctly. We make it very, we keep it open with our customers, so these are your documents, and this is the data, obviously they want to extract, and now it's an option for them what they want to do with that data. So they have got normally the control on the data, and because they are the experts in their domain, so they know it very well how they can utilize it, and we do give them the power of we help them take them to the right direction in order to get the best experiences and the knowledge from that particular data.
Very good. So I know that both of you are part of our Oracle Startup Program. Do you want to give us some insight in terms of how that has helped you bring your business to where it is today?
Mm-hmm.
Ashik, do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, I can. So I think this is one of the good, things which has come on our way when we started our business. I think it's been around 10 or 11 months. And so one of the challenges we were facing was we were using some other cloud infrastructure. So we were on GCP, we were on you name it, right? But as you know, the new businesses, there is always, cash flow problems, because you're not gonna make the, money from the day one. So there was this limitation of cash flow. So when I got introduced to Oracle Startup Program, I think one of the challenges we had was we were offered with the infrastructure. This is the infrastructure, and we will give you, the pricing which you can afford at this stage. But one of the challenges we had was how we can migrate to Oracle, who's going to support us. And there were so many other things because we were hosted on Azure at that time. Now, I'll be honest with you, the amount of support we got, so starting from, technical architects, they looked into our platform and then build our whole infrastructure, our whole architecture on Oracle infrastructure. And then there were challenges related to security, performance, and all these things, we basically sorted one by one, and that was basically collaborating with the teams in Oracle. And one of the things I want to mention here is, the security and the performance, the native performance we got from Oracle, we didn't got from anywhere else.
Fantastic, really, really good to hear. Daniel.
So we've had tremendous support from Oracle as we've been sort of engaged through this program. Now, I think one of the areas in which we've really appreciated has been the depth of knowledge. So, we've got deep pools of experience within our technical team, but we're a relatively young company, and we're going through and facing problems that every single startup has when they're engaging with larger institutions. Now, obviously, Oracle has lots of other companies in a similar situation to ours at this point in time, or companies that have just gone through that, which means that Oracle has essentially that deep pool of experience in terms of dealing with companies in a similar situation to ours who are looking to engage with larger institutions and actually being able to bridge that gap. So for us, from a growth perspective, that's been a real enabler.
Fantastic. So Ashik, I know from you and I talking earlier, it's quite an exciting time in your business at the moment because in the very near future you have a brand new product coming to market. Do you want to give us a bit more of a background in terms of kind of what's sparking that concept to become a revenue generating engine for you?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So what we have done so far, so we launched DocAcquire Core. It's a SaaS platform, built for B2B. And so the way you built it, so our aim was to build a platform where it's basically self-service. A user coming in, registering, and building the workflow end to end. So the user is going to say, this is where my documents are going to come from. They can come from email, inbox. They can come from Google Drive or anywhere. And then, and then build the rules around what data you want to extract, whether it's an invoice, whether it's a medical form, whether it's a purchase order, any other document, because that's what the DocAcquire is unique. This is what our unique, selling proposition is. So we can process any document actually, whether it's a structured. There are 3 types of documents: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So what we deal with 2 different types. The first, structured and semi-structured. So this was the idea, to build this so that the user can self-service. They can design this whole workflow without having any technical background. So which you can do today in DocAcquire, which we call it DocAcquire Core. Now, what we have seen from the last 6 months, because we started getting leads, globally. So as I said earlier, majority from US. So that's what we think is our, that's where most of our customers are coming from. So a lot of these customers, they say, hey, we got problems. We need to automate our, finance function, which is invoice processing, account payables. And 90% of customers, we see them. Now, what we have seen is that layouts of these invoices, they keep changing. A company may get, 300 suppliers, and these 300, suppliers will have 3 different layouts of these invoices. And you can do them in DocAcquire, but it becomes a little bit tricky. It can't easily scale. Now, what we have done is we looked into different, other approaches, and what we came up with this a platform which is, driven by machine learning. So what you will be able to do is you will be coming into this new platform. I haven't got the name for the new platform yet, but it's going to go, as I said, live in mid of January, and hopefully we can do a launch close by here, within Oracle. And so you'll be literally uploading an invoice. The data will be automatically extracted. You don't have to do any configuration. All you will do is you will build the workflow. You will say, hey, this data has to go that application in the cloud, and it will be all seamless. It will be a simple user experience. So everything you'll be do right inside the browser.
Very good. So it's funny because one phrase that has come up a couple of times in our conversation today is machine learning. I think a lot of people, when they hear all of these different concepts, will separate them out. But Daniel, maybe if I could go to you for a minute. Machine learning and analytics, it seems to go hand in hand. What's happening here?
So machine learning is essentially the process through which we are essentially automating the instruction for software, or for the application of rules to find the best result given a certain set of inputs, at least initially. So we're initially setting out a set of rules and with a desired result. Initially, you sort of start off with a few sort of test cases, and then you build out, you expand the amount of data that's going in there. And now, essentially, if you have the obviously right algorithm, which is essentially analyzing the data that's been put there, then you should end up with the right output. So our head of technology actually handles the majority of our sort of machine learning R&D, and he actually today, poor Johnny, our university sandwich student, has been asked to create 6,000 tax forms, essentially crumple them up and change the way that the input data is going to look, and basically to put our system through its paces to make sure that the machine learning essentially is taking and analyzing from the widest possible set of inputs to make sure that the algorithm is going to be correct for all the sorts of documents that our end customers are going to receive. So poor Johnny, but at the same time, like for our head of R&D, like it's a fantastic exercise, and Johnny does actually get to have a look at the results. So it's good for Johnny.
I think that's a good point you mentioned about creating that variety of these input formats, and then having that algorithm having the understanding that putting that algorithm in place so that it can pick those data points from those variety of those documents. So this is the challenge we're having in DocAcquire as well, and this is what we try to solve using machine learning. But one of the key challenges in machine learning, what we have found is it needs a lot of data. So it's all about training the model, and then once you train it with more and more data, it gets smarter and smarter. But the challenge is, where would you get the data from, that initial set of data? And that's where a lot of companies, they aspire, they want to build bake in this AI into their platforms or their applications. This is the challenge they're facing. They can't get that sample data. There are techniques you can generate that sample data, but it's not that effective what you get from the real world.
I heard somebody say that we produce more data in the past 2 years than what we have in the past 10 years, or at least managed to gather it. So are we not, is it coming to a point where we have it to feed a system that it's to make this machine learning concept more intelligent? Or is it the fact that we haven't farmed the correct data in order to bring us to the next steps?
I think it actually depends on the context. I'm looking from a ISV, software vendor point of view. So if I build a platform, if I build an application which will understand these documents, so I can call it document understanding. So it's normally that data lies with the customer, my customer, because I'm not getting them. So the challenge is how I will convince my customer to basically borrow those documents, to 3,000-4,000 documents to me, so that I can feed these variety of documents to my platform to train. So that's the challenge.
Very good. So Daniel, we know the exciting things that are coming up in January for DocAcquire. Anything you'd like to give us some insight in for Taina Technologies?
Yeah, so very recent announcement from our end, and actually we've got our first online and mobile web go live. So that's actually next Friday. So we've got sort of fingers and toes crossed for that, but actually that's going to be the first true validation process that is integrated into an onboarding system for a financial institution in the world. So that gives real-time validation of the information that you're putting in to the customer and removing any of the headaches associated with incorrect tax forms that operations departments have to deal with. So that for us is really exciting. And actually, I mentioned sort of our R&D earlier. We're really looking forward to seeing the results that are going to come out of that process, because we're going to learn all sorts of things, like where are end customers pausing? Mm-hmm. Where can instructions be clearer? And are we wording instructions correctly for the type of demographic? So, many of our customers are going to have different demographic types. And if I give sort of the Google Maps example from earlier and trying to find the shortest route between two different points, it's going to depend on things like, the time of day, how quickly do you actually walk versus the rest of the traffic. We have to work through those same sorts of principles and concepts with the way that we're presenting the sorts of questions that financial institutions have to their end customers. So that's that's the recent sort of the recent announcement and the sort of exciting thing coming up. But yeah, can't wait to have a look at that.
Very, very good. Very good. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank both of you for your time. It's been fantastic. I would like to say I'm that bit better off in terms I understand it a bit more, but a lot more concepts have come into play than what I was expecting. But it has been fantastic and very valuable for me all the same. Ironically enough, talking about data and gathering all of that information and putting it into practice will still involve an action point from somebody at the end. And next week, we're going to be discussing AI, which despite what people have a tendency to believe that we'll all be overtaken by robots, it's not what we will be focusing about, but more about the changing landscape of the workplace. Grace, do you want to give us a bit more insight into that?
So we are going to be talking to another two startups from Oracle's startup program. We have Recruitment Smart and MeVite, and we're going to be looking at AI and how it can improve processes in the workplace, more specifically in recruitment, and where we have come in terms of artificial intelligence and where we're going with AI.
Fantastic. So on behalf of me, Conor Warde, colleague Grace, and Owen in the background on sound, thank you very much, and to my two guests for making it a very enjoyable session. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to you joining us in episode 2 of series 2 of CurioCity.